When you think of the Great Pyramids, you probably imagine mystical secrets, alien theories, or thousands of suffering slaves toiling under a blazing sun. But the actual truth is, the people who built the pyramids were not slaves, but skilled, well-fed, and highly organized workers. They weren't just stacking rocks. They were part of a national project that blended engineering genius, cultural pride, and extreme dedication. Archaeological evidence has completely rewritten what we thought we knew about these builders. From beer rations to medical care, these workers weren't mindless laborers, but key players in creating one of the most enduring wonders of the world. So let's dive into 15 shocking facts that reveal just how advanced, respected, and even well-paid these builders really were. Because trust us, the reality is far more fascinating than the myths. Number 15. They weren't slaves, they were paid workers. For centuries, we were taught that the pyramids were built by enslaved people, brutally forced to work against their will. But archaeology has shut that theory down. Excavations near the pyramids unearthed workers' villages, complete with homes, bakeries, and even cemeteries. These weren't prison camps. They were lively communities where builders lived and worked in shifts, receiving payment for food, beer, and other goods. The discovery of tombs belonging to pyramid builders also proves that they were highly respected because slaves were never buried with such honors. While hard labor was definitely involved, these workers took pride in their craftsmanship and their role in building something divine. Rather than being forced, they saw their work as a duty to their pharaoh and their country. So next time you picture the pyramids being built, forget the whips and chains. Think of skilled engineers who were the unsung heroes of ancient Egypt. Number 14. They had on-site medical care. Building a pyramid was brutal work. Moving multi-ton limestone blocks, chiseling stone, and hauling materials for hours under the blazing Egyptian sun took a serious toll on the workers' bodies. But unlike what you'd expect for an ancient workforce, these laborers actually had on-site medical care. Archaeologists discovered remains of workers who had survived broken bones and major injuries, meaning they received treatment instead of being left to die. Evidence of set fractures, healed bones, and even primitive prosthetics shows that workers had access to doctors who helped them recover and keep working. This kind of organized healthcare was unheard of in many ancient civilizations. The pyramid builders weren't seen as disposable. They were valuable assets, and the Egyptians made sure they were kept healthy enough to finish the job. Number 13. They drank a lot of beer. If you think you need a beer after a long day, imagine building a 450-foot stone pyramid by hand. Pyramid workers didn't just drink beer. It was part of their wages. Archaeologists found evidence that builders were given up to 4 liters of beer a day as a source of hydration, nutrition, and, well, probably a little morale boost. Since ancient Egyptian beer was low in alcohol but rich in calories, it worked as both a drink and a food supplement. Beer was so essential that entire breweries existed near the worksite just to keep the labor force supplied. These weren't sloppy, drunken workers. This was a controlled system of rations designed to keep them hydrated and energized. So while modern workers get coffee breaks, the builders of the pyramids get beer breaks. Maybe they were on to something. Well, we love this kind of job. Number 12. Their diet was surprisingly good. You'd think that workers laboring in the hot sun for hours on end would be half-starved, but the truth is, they ate better than most peasants. Archaeologists found evidence that pyramid workers were fed a steady diet of fresh bread, beef, fish, onions, and other high-protein foods. In fact, cattle bones found at workers' sites indicate that they were eating prime cuts of meat, something that even average Egyptians didn't get often. This wasn't just basic sustenance. It was a carefully planned diet to keep them strong and able to work. The fact that they had access to quality food, beer, and medical care further proves they weren't seen as disposable slaves, but as an important workforce that needed to be maintained. Ancient Egypt knew how to keep their builders happy, because a hungry, weak labor force wasn't going to build a wonder of the world. Number 11. The workforce was gigantic. We often imagine hundreds of thousands of people hauling stones in endless lines, but the real number was likely around 20,000 to 30,000 workers at any given time. How do we know? Well, archaeologists found the remains of a massive workers' village near the pyramids, capable of housing tens of thousands. These workers lived in shifts, meaning the workforce was constantly rotating. Farmers would come during the flood season when they couldn't work their fields, and return home afterward. The idea of millions of people toiling away for decades is just a myth. Instead, the Egyptians managed an efficient rotating system of skilled laborers, making it one of the largest and most organized workforce operations in ancient history. All right, now let's move to number 10. They had organized labor teams. These weren't just random workers thrown together. They were organized teams with real pride in their work. Some crews even gave themselves names like the Friends of Khufu or the Drunkards of Menkaure. Yes, that was an actual labor team. What's even crazier? These builders left graffiti inside the pyramids, hidden signatures and jokes carved into stone, proving that they were not just anonymous workers, but real people with personalities, humor, and pride in what they were building. This proves that pyramid construction was not just about labor, it was about teamwork and culture. Workers weren't just following orders, they were part of something much bigger. This is just the beginning of the shocking facts about the pyramid builders. The real story is far more fascinating than the myths, proving that ancient Egypt's greatest achievement was built by some of the most skilled and respected workers of their time. Number 9. Some were buried near the pyramids. One of the biggest arguments against the slave labor theory, the fact that some pyramid builders were buried in tombs near the pyramids themselves. Archaeologists discovered worker graves close to the Giza complex, and these weren't just shallow mass burials. These were proper tombs, built with care, proving these workers were respected and honored for their contributions. Slaves wouldn't have received such treatment. Only valued members of society were given the privilege of a proper burial near a pharaoh's resting place. The remains inside these tombs show signs of labor injuries, but also evidence of medical care and healing, meaning these workers weren't discarded when they got hurt. Their tombs contained pottery, tools, and personal items, showing that their work on the pyramids wasn't just a job, it was a source of pride. Being buried near the pyramid meant they were part of something sacred, and that legacy continues today, rewriting our understanding of who really built these wonders. Number 8. They used ingenious techniques to move stone. Moving multi-ton limestone blocks in 2600 BC sounds impossible, but Egyptian builders had an incredibly smart method, one that modern scientists have only recently figured out. Archaeologists found evidence that workers dragged massive stones on sleds, but here's the genius part. They poured water on the sand in front of the sleds. This technique significantly reduced friction, making it 50% easier to move the blocks across long distances. This simple but brilliant hack allowed workers to haul enormous stones without getting stuck in the soft desert sands. It was so effective that researchers at the University of Amsterdam replicated the method in modern experiments, proving that ancient Egyptians were far more advanced than previously thought. Rather than struggling under impossible odds, pyramid builders were using science and engineering to their advantage, long before modern physics explained how it worked. Turns out, the secret to building the pyramids wasn't aliens. It was ingenuity and teamwork. Number 7. They took part in religious rituals. Building a pyramid wasn't just a physical job, it was a spiritual duty. These workers weren't just constructing a massive tomb, they were helping to build a stairway to the afterlife for their pharaoh, who was considered a god on earth. Religious ceremonies were a key part of daily life at the worksite. Workers participated in rituals, offering prayers and sacrifices to the gods for strength, protection, and a smooth building process. Temples and shrines were often built near construction sites where workers could leave offerings or receive blessings. These laborers weren't just seen as builders. They were fulfilling a sacred mission that carried enormous importance in Egyptian society. For them, pyramid building wasn't just about stacking stones. It was about ensuring their pharaoh's eternal life, and in turn, securing their own place in history and the afterlife. It wasn't just work. It was a divine act. Number 6. They weren't just Egyptians. While many of the pyramid builders were native Egyptians, evidence suggests that the workforce was far more diverse than previously thought. Archaeologists have found remains of foreign laborers among the workers' graves, suggesting that people from Nubia, the Levant, and other nearby regions also contributed to pyramid construction. These weren't enslaved captives, but hired laborers, artisans, and specialists who traveled from other lands to take part in one of history's greatest projects. Ancient Egypt was a powerful, interconnected empire, and labor from other regions would have been common in large-scale construction projects. The mix of different cultures at the worksite shows that the pyramids weren't just a local Egyptian effort. They were an international engineering marvel, built with skills and resources from across the region. So, while Egyptians led the project, they weren't alone. Building the pyramids was a collaborative effort involving multiple cultures, making it one of the most impressive construction projects in history. Number 5. They had hierarchies. Not everyone did hard labor. Pyramid workers weren't all hauling stone and chiseling blocks. There was a clear hierarchy, just like in any major construction project. At the top, you had architects, engineers, and planners, responsible for designing the pyramid and coordinating logistics. Below them were skilled artisans and masons, carving precise stone blocks and engraving hieroglyphics. Then came the laborers, who did the heavy lifting, transporting materials, and building ramps. There were also support staff, including cooks, brewers, and doctors, who kept the workers fed and healthy. Unlike the stereotypical image of thousands of mindless workers toiling under the sun, pyramid construction was a highly organized system, with specialists working in different roles to keep the process moving efficiently. The idea that everyone was just a grunt hauling stone is completely false. The workforce included some of the best minds and hands in ancient Egypt, all working together in a structured, disciplined manner. All right, guys, now, let's head over to Number 4. Many had family ties to the pyramids. Pyramid building wasn't just a temporary job. For some, it was a family legacy. Many workers came from generations of skilled builders, passing down knowledge and techniques from father to son. Archaeologists have found family graves near workers' villages, suggesting that some laborers spent their entire lives working on these structures, teaching the trade to their children. Some inscriptions even hint that certain families were known for specific skills, like stone cutting or rope making. This wasn't just manual labor. It was a respected profession, much like modern-day engineering or skilled craftsmanship. Workers took pride in leaving their mark on history, knowing that the pyramids would stand long after they were gone. For some, working on the pyramids wasn't just about a paycheck. It was about carrying on a family tradition that would be remembered for millennia. Number 3. They had seasonal shifts. Building the pyramids wasn't a year-round job for everyone. Many of the workers were actually farmers who worked in shifts during the Nile's flood season. When the annual flooding made farming impossible, thousands of men would rotate into pyramid construction, providing a temporary workforce that didn't disrupt Egypt's food supply. This system meant that the pyramid workforce was constantly changing and replenishing, ensuring that there were always enough hands on deck without overburdening the population. It also explains why so many people took part in building the pyramids. It was a national project that involved all levels of society. The work wasn't just about earning food and beer rations. Many Egyptians saw their time on the pyramid site as a duty to their pharaoh and the gods, making it both an economic opportunity and a spiritual honor. So rather than being a permanent labor camp, the pyramid work site was a seasonal hub of activity, where workers came and went with the rhythms of the Nile. Number 2, the pyramids were a symbol of national pride. Forget the idea of forced labor. For the people of ancient Egypt, building the pyramids was a matter of national pride. These weren't just tombs. They were monuments to Egypt's power, wealth, and divine connection to the gods. Workers weren't just stacking stone blocks. They were participating in one of the greatest achievements in human history. Many took pride in their role, knowing that their work would stand for generations to come. Unlike most laborers in history, who built structures that would eventually decay, the pyramid builders knew their work would be eternal. Even today, thousands of years later, the pyramids remain one of the most awe-inspiring structures on Earth, proving that their work truly stood the test of time. For the workers, it wasn't just a job. It was a legacy, a chance to be part of something greater than themselves. Number 1, their work influenced future engineering. The engineering knowledge gained from pyramid construction didn't disappear. It laid the foundation for future Egyptian architecture and even influenced later civilizations. Techniques developed during pyramid construction, such as stone cutting, precise alignment, and advanced planning, were later used in temples, obelisks, and even later tombs in the Valley of the Kings. The experience gained from building the pyramids allowed Egypt's engineers to create even more ambitious structures over the centuries. Beyond Egypt, the mathematical and architectural principles used in pyramid building were later studied by Greek and Roman architects, influencing structures like Roman aqueducts and even modern construction techniques. The pyramid builders weren't just constructing a single monument, they were shaping the future of architecture and engineering. Their work set a global precedent, proving that human ingenuity, organization, and teamwork could achieve the impossible. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.